Welcome to the Analytics Heroes podcast by Modern Data 101, the one and only platform for all things data products and purpose driven analytics. My name is 𝐒𝐲𝐬𝐬 Verma, Community Manager at Modern, and I'll be your host. Today we have Sitian Gao with us, a dynamic professional passionate about using analytics to drive impactful decisions. Sitian specializes in integrating advanced analytics into retail and supply chain strategies, creating innovative frameworks that enhance decision making in e-commerce and logistics. Her expertise lies in delivering value through data-driven storytelling, empowering organizations to transform customer experiences and optimize operations. Sitian, welcome to the podcast. And to get started, if you could talk a little bit about your recent projects and the work you have been doing.
The most recent project was on building data layers and data warehousing for supply chain space. And that requires a lot of efforts to connect different systems across the whole supply chain. And the difficulty about those is that the data is on different granularity levels, and you sort of need to find a way to make the data layer make sense for the end users, and how can you leverage all the different systems that they're using to help facilitate any kind of data request that they proposed. So it's highly technical, but also requires a lot of understanding on what kind of product that you wanted to deliver eventually, and how do you define the goal with the stakeholders, and how do you make the execution happen.
So if you could share key learnings from managing the 6 data products for Wayfair's global supply chain, which you mentioned. So what about that? How did you manage those 6 data products?
We have a team of people that work on like all the different data products, which is very decentralized in a sense. And then we have centralized way of managing the tickets of all the projects under the same vertical. So it's a combination. And in terms of how do we manage the sprints and tickets, we have basically the similar processes like software engineering. 2 weeks is the sprint, and then you do the sprints to finish the tasks within the development cycle. And then there has to be a person to communicate with stakeholders on your progress. That's where the project lead comes into play. And then the project lead will talk about the progress of the tickets and feedback from stakeholders, and what's the next step on project. And so there is one person to handle all the communications. And then the feedback loop from the stakeholders is that we have the intake forms for stakeholders to fill in, and then we receive their tickets about the existing products, what's the problem with the existing products, and then we scope all those maintenance tickets into different sprints to work on those maintenance tickets. That's how we do maintenance. About live alerts, we have centralized channels about the alerts that are happening on our pipelines. Say it's integrated within Slack, and we just get alert notifications about different pipelines being broken, or something is not refreshing within the time frame that we set up. And other than that, the majority of the work is to make sure our new projects are up and running and delivering on time, and the existing products are under our critical eyes, because we don't want to miss anything that's happening in the existing pipeline that we don't know. So in terms of like the time management and capacity, we usually do like 10 to 20% of maintenance, and also depends on the scope of the issues and how often they happen. And so our focus is still on developing new things.
As you mentioned about monitoring as well, so you have got your alerts all sorted and it's all connected with Slack. So do you get alerts from the system to your Slack if anything goes up and down?
We have alerts channels, and then the alerts will just push by the monitoring system to Slack.
Nice.
And then you can read all the alerts in the Slack and see what's going on there.
Down. But yeah, this was a good, clean way of narrating how you go through your procedure, and maybe people can learn from this procedure. Anything which goes good in your favor, they might have a learning curve. Moving on to the next one, how has your experience with SQL, Python, and Airflow shaped your backend infrastructure development?
So most things are developed. We have SQL scripts to basically write the queries, and then we use Python to do the pipelines along with Airflow. I think that's quite a standard way to do it. That's it's really clear and easy to understand.
Yeah, in terms of your experience, were there any hiccups, or what were the good things? What were the easy parts, which were very seamless?
SQL scripts are pretty easy that we avoid large scripts. We don't do like one large scripts for everything. It's more of a each script has their own purpose.
Yeah.
And then how can you connect them together? We also use dbt to make the backend more robust within so dbt helps you to build up your backend infrastructure better, and you can understand each layer of things. Like how do you make this table connect to the other table? You can see their relationship in the dbt backend, and dbt also help us with the front end that our end users can see how their data is flowing from different places. Yeah.
Nice. So, as you mentioned, this tool helps you manage most of the things altogether, but there also is data governance, which is a big factor coming in. So, data governance is becoming increasingly important as well. How do you and your team ensure that data governance frameworks are not just set in place, but are truly effective if you're using all these tools?
You kind of just have you see data governance from different ways. One is you, as an analytics team, that needs to make sure everything is properly done on the back end. Then you have to make an agreement with your stakeholders. What's the single source of truth? They might have a different idea. You might have a different idea on the same data, and then eventually you need to agree what data should be the single source of truth in this development process for data governance. And if they have an updated source from engineering or from the stakeholder side, that if they switch systems, then you have to have this feedback loop from them to tell you which source is the better source that we found out. Yeah. And also we have proper engineering stand-ups with engineering. We connect with them and see which their best recommendation on the table to use or the event to consume. So it's from both engineering and stakeholder side. We make sure the single source of truth, and then you have to make agreement with your stakeholders on what kind of data they're looking and then how can we make sure it goes to that our data is going through into your report on the stakeholder side, so that we connect all the bridges together to make data governance happen. Because data governance is not solely done in analytics. You need to have all the conversations with your upstream, your downstream consumers, and make sure they all are agreeing on the same basis with analytics.
Definitely. So you definitely have to communicate to make those ends meet, and that's how data governance can go ahead. Makes sense. Nice.
And also you can leverage all the tools to make it happen, and also advocate for your team to let people know that you have the best data and your team is making an effort on data governance. That's also important. So you don't want to have multiple sources on the same data, which can cause a lot of chaotic situations, and also doesn't help the business to measure how things are running.
What are the key elements you consider essential in building effective ETL pipelines, especially when dealing with complex data sources?
I think in this process, if you are facing a lot of different sources, kind of have to think about from the high level that what sources is the best one to use. And then you sort of know like other sources can contribute to this main source as like a fallback solution. So your main pipeline will be going through all the major sources, and then you can have small scripts to have backup solutions for this kind of column or this kind of event. So the backup solution doesn't take all of the like the resources that you use for your major sources.
Yeah.
That's where I found the most effective way to deal with multiple sources. And also you can set up logic with your stakeholders on what kind of source is the first priority, and then you can use like a priority ranking on all the sources.
Yes.
And measure like what percentage data is coming from this source, what percentage data is coming from other sources. So you sort of know like good pictures about all your sources, and then you can make decisions in your scripts and pipelines to decide what kind of data you consume.
Yes.
You don't just consume everything. You need to have logic on how things are running from the data side and the engineering side, and also how business consume this kind of data.
Yes.
That way you can make your backend more efficient and don't need to consider everything.
Nice. That's basically knitting all the things together which you just mentioned. Absolutely very crisp, because this is also a critical part which you just mentioned. We want to know your take on how to grow as an analytics or a data engineer. What are the things you would love to work on as a data engineer? The likes, the loves, whatever.
I think say I'm not like only doing data engineering in my career or analytics engineering. This is my latest focus. And this function basically pieces the technical part and business part all together and create values for the business, and also give feedback for products and engineering. So it's an important bridge. And then if you reverse logistic about the expectations on the role and goals, sort of notice that you need to understand what kind of data products your customer wants. So you're a product manager. And then you need to know how the technical things are being done. So you do analytics engineering, you do technical stuff. And then you need to understand the relationships of the data and how it's coming from engineering, and so that you can kind of also know a little bit about how engineering works to design everything on their backend, and how you can make the data flow to your backend easier. And so that's the data engineering part. And you sort of need to all the art and science to combine together to do this role well. And then if you eventually wanted to be a top-notch data engineering or analytics engineering, be part of this function. Your previous experience, like I had experience on strategy and operations and business analytics, product analytics. So I know what the business wants and how data can help them in the best way. And I also know what product managers want for data to help them make decisions in the day-to-days. Because I also did product analytics in the past. And then all of that combined with the technical skills that you accumulated throughout the career, you kind of know, okay, in this analytics engineering function, you need both worlds to be able to provide the best solution for whoever you work with. And yeah, that's how I see it. And it's not purely a technical role.
But yeah, definitely it's a very smooth transition, bridging your past experience to a newer domain and a whole team, completing the ecosystem for you and the team. That's nice. So what core skills and tools have been pivotal in your role as an analytics project lead?
The core skills, I would say, if you are leading projects, then the strong ownership of your projects and make sure projects are delivered on time is really important, and the quality needs to be good. So that's what project lead needs to make sure. And you need to also have a higher level picture of how to set up the structure for your products and what's your vision for your products. You need to have a vision, and that usually also ties with the business goals. So being able to understand and leveraging business resource to help you make sure your projects is providing the most value is also important.
Yeah.
And also technical skills. Definitely need to be technically capable, be able to code and be able to understand how the backends work and have all the experience to make the project happen, because project lead doesn't just lead in the project. I also code.
Yeah.
And I contribute a large part in the project in a technical way and also in the soft skill way. So both parts are important. And also, how do you maintain the relationship with your stakeholders so that whenever they have a good experience with you, then you can have further opportunities to expand what your team can do with the future project. So be able to maintain that relationship is also important, and also need to stand outside of, like, on the zoom out of your day-to-day tasks to drive the project. Other than that, you need to see where are the opportunities that we're not capturing, but we can do as a team. So list out those opportunity areas, and in the future, if we do planning cycles or if we do prioritization, you can mention those as the things that your team wants to do and capable of, and also are important. So it's more like a well-rounded position, I have to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what about some tools that you use a lot?
Tools we use, other than the technical stuff that we have discussed, we also use Jira. So that's the centralized place we manage tickets from stakeholders, and we also manage our own sprints in there. It's pretty much everyone is using it. And we also use a lot of just smaller tools that our team has developed, but it's more of internal tools.
That makes total sense, because it's not just the person or the people who are communicating, but also the context, which is very important. It needs to be shared across the whole cycle. So all this which you mentioned really helps people to navigate and communicate with each other much better. And that also brings us to the different tools which you mentioned, as some of them are your internal tools, some are already externally used. So when exploring these new tools, how can a data engineer or analytics engineers assess their fitness for the projects you are currently having? So could you share an example of a recent tool you evaluated and your decision-making process behind its adoption or rejection for your current project?
Nowadays, a lot of companies compare like the functionality and also how much we need to spend on those tools.
Yes.
If an existing tool is running pretty well, and if we look at a new tool and it doesn't add any value, we wouldn't switch. And also on the company level, there is a procurement team constantly looking at the tools out there, and then they send us surveys about our current experience about the current tools. What are the expectations of the current tools needs to be improved? And then they analyze all the survey results from all the consumers of the current tools. And then they talk about either with the current providers, what are the feedback we have, and how can you improve our experience, or the current provider doesn't have that solution. We as a team are looking at what other teams are using, or what are the tools on the market that can help us achieve a better solution. So it's not a one single team effort in the larger company. You have a procurement team that also work with you to make sure you have a better experience with all the tools. And they also value the cost. If the costs make sense, if we can find another cheaper tool that does the same thing, and they will also ask you if you want to try it out, you can contact the procurement team, and then they can provide you, like, basically your team is testing this tool, and then they collect feedback. So it's like a larger collaboration process. And also, of course, the vendors will always reach out to you and ask you about if you want to try it. And on the team leadership level, they decide, like the directors, they decide from their calls with the vendors, and if it's worth a try, or what's the benefits of this tool. They make all the decisions from, like, on the leadership level. And we lead projects and do the day-to-day work, provide feedback of how we think about this tool and how can we leverage this tool, or if this is a good fit or doesn't fit our needs. Yeah.
So is it always the case that it comes from top to bottom, as in from the decision makers to you guys, or it goes the other
Um,
way around as well too?
it goes both ways.
Mhm.
If we strongly don't like something, then we provide the feedback, and
Mhm.
then they will evaluate, okay, this doesn't work out.
Mhm.
Um, and then from the bigger solution, like all those cloud solutions, they also give you a whole package of things that
Mhm.
you can use. Like Google Cloud, they give you a lot of different analytics tools. If you sign the deals on the enterprise level, a lot of things are probably under the discount.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
from cost perspective, most big companies evaluate the tools from the whole company perspective, and then they will have the procurement team to work with account
Mhm.
managers and product managers for our company.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's just how things generally are running. Yeah.
Nice. That's interesting. Given DBT is one of the major players here. So given DBT is one of those tools which is embedded in a data engineer's day-to-day work. So what are some of the recurrent challenges you've experienced with it, and how would you recommend overcoming them?
I think it's pretty useful so far, and I quite like it. I have to be honest. Yeah, people
Nice.
complain about the pricing, but I think if um, yeah, that's
Nice.
also
So,
if you constantly adopt
hmm,
this tool, you have to basically use it for a
hmm,
really long time.
yes. So you have to keep yourself updated for the tool.
Yeah, and so if you switch to other tools, then you have to migrate.
Hmm.
So also this tool is, if it's already heavily used, it's difficult to migrate.
Hmm.
Um, so once you adopt it, it's harder to give up.
Hmm. Yes, nice. That's a sweet spot which the organization is, but it is also tipping the scales because you then think of moving to a new tool because you have a dependency here. But if it helps. So yeah, moving to the next question. What drove you to become a data engineer, and how has your background in statistics shaped your approach in engineering and problem solving?
Like naturally, I wanted to figure out how this can work in the business setting. Like, statistics doesn't help you with everything.
Mhm.
You need to make things um, happen with analytics engineering,
Mhm.
and the statistics knowledge equip you on um, how do you evaluate data quality, and how do you make sure metrics are calculating properly and it's the correct metric. But that's just like really easy statistics that you use at work.
Yeah.
And
Any
yeah,
factors which you prioritize when creating a model to ensure if it can scale and evolve as the business grows? Because that's also based on statistics on some part.
the growth of the business we don't really talk about in the current state, because we don't support the growth team that much in the most recent
Mhm.
project.
Okay.
Um, yeah, you
Okay.
can use statistics and machine learning a lot to help understand who are your target customers and how do you define different customer
Mhm.
groups, and then how do you go about your marketing strategy and your product strategy towards them.
Mhm.
But um, in the recent projects, we don't use that. Yeah,
Okay. What are the top three aspects you believe are lacking in the current data engineering stack, which make the day-to-day of a data engineer very challenging?
I mean it's a lot easy with AI nowadays.
Mhm.
So yeah, the Copilot that I used, um,
So is it
my
that,
experience,
yeah.
like it's either you have Copilot on GitHub or you have Copilot on other places.
Mhm.
You can find pretty much a lot of stuff with coding pretty
Mhm.
efficiently with
Mhm.
AI,
Yeah.
and that helps like the coding part. And
Mhm.
then other than that,
I mean,
I would say if you really want to make data engineering easy, then the pipeline stuff, if
mhm.
you can make it modular and if you can make it more drag and drop solution,
Yeah.
then you're enabling more small business to also have better data quality and engineering, because if for small business, not necessarily they need a data engineering team, but all those solutions you can find in the startups that currently are doing this on the infrastructure side. But for larger organizations that has a mature engineering team and data and analytics, we normally don't consume that kind of products, but those products are probably really useful for small and medium business.
It's all a bunch of different tools and combining them together, somehow making them talk to each other. But yeah, a plug and play solution, as you mentioned, could be a great way out. That does make sense. The community is abuzz with semantic and logical models as the future of data modeling. So have you implemented any of it? And what are your thoughts on this approach?
I think it works well for us.
Okay. So you are currently using this?
Yes.
So
what we have is the backend from all the events that landed in the Google Cloud. And then the Google Cloud will consume the different tables from all the different tables. And then you can create your own tables within the structures on GPT.
Right. So is it like a combination of metrics somehow?
Yes and no. We have some tables just there and for you to use, and also we have metrics that are ready to consume. So you will, you will never have perfect solutions for okay, this is just for, we do this just for metrics. We want this to be leveraged at maximum. And then we also let our team to consume the tables from that infrastructure, and also we kind of also built up another layer out of the DBT tables to make sure that stakeholders also have the table that they want to consume. It's just more customized towards their needs.
So that all the people who are in the organization, they also use this same semantic layer to communicate with data and understand different data?
No, I think it depends on we have the majority of like your data engineering or analytics engineering, like what's the scope of their data, and also what works well for them, because eventually you still have to work with your stakeholders and persuade them on a new way of doing things.
Yes.
And then you kind of need to migrate from the existing way to the new approach you want to do. So you'll have a pilot program with them and see how it works out. So not every team are currently doing this.
But yeah, that's a good start for everyone. So as the data engineering stack or the analytics engineering stack develops, do you see it becoming easier to understand the impact of your role or your team's functions on the key business KPIs like the ROI or the ARR? How do you view this becoming easier?
So, for example, our metrics, we have different metrics because whatever metrics that your analytics is supporting. And for the metrics that we support, I think it's working pretty well. Yeah, that's why our team is the team is running pretty well. Yeah, I think we created pretty clear structure, and it's been working for us.
Nice. That's a really good thing. Not every organization has figured this out yet, but we're glad that you are also a part of a team which is really confident and transparent about what they're doing. That's why you are not facing those difficulties which other organizations with multiple tools are currently facing. That's a good thing. And to the next one, have data catalogs made the lives of analytics and data engineers simpler in terms of resolving those piled up requests on Jira?
I think yes. Also, it depends on how you built your data catalog. If you built the data catalog in the easy to understand way, then it obviously work for you. And how are people trusting those data catalog? How often do you examine your catalog and make sure it's reflect the most recent thing? I think if it's well maintained, then it helps. If not, then it doesn't help. Yeah.
This also brings us to one very popular topic now these days. Have you heard about or worked with data products?
Of course, and everything nowadays is a product because there is a person who use that. That can be a product, and then your team is the team to create that product for the end user.
Yes. And if you've been through using these data products, then how would a typical analytics engineer understand or use data products?
It also depends on what kind of data product it is.
Mhm.
If the product is a table, then you consume a table.
Mhm.
If it's dashboard, you consume a dashboard or you make a dashboard. If it's a data warehouse that your team provide, then data warehouse is your product.
Mhm.
And you have different goals on data products. So your data consumer also has their expectations about how they get out of the data product. Like you basically are creating solutions for people to work better or make better decisions. It's the same as consumer products that you have product manager and engineering to make things happen, or you have product manager and manufacturing to make things happen. And in the data world, you have your analytics engineers and your analysts, your data engineering to make your data product useful for whatever purpose that your end user is having.
Yes.
And also in this process, because it's data,
Mhm.
you need to make sure the quality is good and it's reflecting the accurate information. Um, and you need to make sure the backend is running smoothly and in an optimized way. So I don't see the difference of making this an exception.
And what details should an analytics engineer look for in a good data product? How would you classify it as a good one for you?
Yeah, so first of all, you see the coverage, and if the coverage is really good, normally we expect above 99%. But there are also exceptions about how, for example, there are products that are not having perfect coverage. It's because people don't use it every day. Like in your supply chain, you have something, say you have different sources, right, from different systems that gives you a data. For example, people in supply chain use different route optimization software in different vendors. And then you consume this table from one of your vendors about their route, and you consume another table about their vendor, one of their route. So, and in the cases that your engineering team provide all the tables, they just probably didn't make like a joint effort to create a single source of truth on the route information from different vendors. Then you kind of need to piece all the data together from different vendors. And eventually you will not get 100% or 99% coverage. It's because the data lost in every step from the source, and also how the business is executing. Sometimes they just didn't have that thing. So in those real world experience, you don't normally get coverage that's meeting your expectation, but you should be able to set up a threshold out of your observation. What's the threshold for your coverage acceptance? And then other than coverage, you need to see how the data is like the distribution. You also have your different ideas about how this data is distributed. Like if you have a global data, you would expect the larger market should fill up majority of the data, and smaller market doesn't take a lot. And if you see the drop in the larger market, then there's a problem with this data, or there's a problem with something else that's happening. So that's when you kind of use like the data distribution and a little bit statistics stuff to analyze the distribution. And other than that, the table needs to be clearly labeled with like the column definitions and where do you source this column. Yeah. And also, there are specific requirements about specific data in different domain, and you need to kind of understand and get to know the requirement on domain part.
Yes.
Each every domain has different requirements on um, their own data, and sometimes certain data needs to be private, and you have to mask the sensitive information.
Hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't need to be that way, and sometimes you collect data from different countries. They have different measuring scales,
Hmm.
so you need to make sure that they're all correct, or you kind of need to convert them
Hmm.
um, to make sure the stakeholder sees the correct information, and you also are making sure that you uh, are injecting the correct information from your upstream.
Yes.
And other than that, there's always a timestamp in your table somehow in every single table you have timestamp. For timestamps, you need to make sure the time zones are in the same time zone. Are they UTC or are they local, or are they the time that event was happening in this place? So yeah, that's just all these different types of data also requires you to examine
Hmm.
more carefully and review what you are getting and what you're um, basically transforming.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so a table can happen in many different ways that um, needs to be basically requirements made and for you to be able to deliver the best table
Yes.
for your consumer. Yeah.
Yes, this was a brilliant answer with so much detail that I could really understand and imagine the journey of a person who is going through and analyzing a data table. In what many aspects should they look into, and what could be the basic factor to choose or discard a table which is of value or not, or it doesn't add value to your organization. That was very nice. I really love that answer. And this also bridges to how do you see data product management if you are a data product manager evolving over the next few years, particularly in the supply chain analytics?
So I think supply chain nowadays, if you see, say, let's say, if you are the logistic company and provide supply chain service for your customer, then you analyze the performance of your team and how you are making your customer experience better and how you are running your supply chain smoothly throughout all the different nodes, all the different things that's happening. So for logistics, I would say data product manager would come into play that they can help the company to have better understanding of their own data.
Mhm.
And also, if the logistic company doesn't solely provide logistics service on the ground running, like
Mhm.
the operation stuff,
Mhm.
they also provide nowadays very common like TMS
Mhm.
or warehouse management system for all your end users, your customers. It can be a small or medium business or a larger company. And then once they use your supply chain solution, those companies also come up with those TMS or warehouse management (WMS) to help their customer to understand their inventory, also understand their orders, where are they, how are their orders running in the supply chain. So TMS and WMS is essentially showing the data that's
Mhm.
happening in the company, in the logistic company, and then the data product manager can work with the product manager of those
Mhm.
different softwares
Yeah.
to make sure that customers see more accurate data
Mhm.
and more frequently refreshed data,
Mhm.
and also making sure all the key metrics that customers care about are reflecting on their end.
Yeah.
Um, and they can also work with the product manager to establish a requirement feedback loop from the customers to make sure that on the data part we're providing the best solution
Mhm.
so that the company can also leverage all the data
Mhm.
as a competitive advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And with this, there has to be a lot of keeping up to date with what's happening with your customer, what's happening with your data at your current tool. How all these things bridge the gap is very important, and you have to keep updating yourself about what are we doing with the latest tech which is coming in, how are we using it. As you mentioned, AI is also an integral part with you at your organization right now. So what are your go-to resources or communities for staying updated on the latest developments in these analytics tools or technologies?
So if you care about AI and how that's evolving, I guess a lot of newsletters and big companies, they do their release notes, and it's pretty easy to subscribe. YouTube channels as well,
Yeah.
And podcasts. All the resources out there, and you subscribe several. They will keep you pretty well updated, and also you can try it out yourself. It's important. Yeah.
Nice. And this sums up all the technical questions which we had for you, Sitian. And now we want to know who you are as a person. So first, very, very simple question. I like this very much. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance while keeping up the fun at work?
I think work-life balance, um, in my understanding, if some people they are very driven in their career, they would sacrifice the work-life balance. And um, if you're at a life stage that you just want to have um, like more time for your life, then you choose to have more time for your life. It's basically your personal choice, and I don't think you need to force work-life balance to everyone. Everyone has their own goal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So this was your take on work-life balance and how it's a subjective choice for everyone because as you mentioned correctly, everyone is in different hierarchies or stages of their life, ages. It's totally upon them what they focus upon. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the next one, some recent feel-good moments like any road trip or any outing which you had, keeping you joyful and motivated.
I guess traveling and um, going to different workout class. Workout helps you to regulate your mood
Mhm.
and gives you a stronger physically. You can get stronger, and
Yeah.
also helps to light up your mood. And traveling is also basically you're seeing new stuff and change of the environment. Yeah, it's a good stimulate system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely, and also builds up the confidence. We'll always keep that in check. Yes, and
Yeah.
last one. What are some goals that you aspire to fulfill and some hobbies that you have developed which are helping you to keep up with that goal?
Um, I guess the goal currently, the most feasible one, is to keep up with the workout frequency,
Yeah.
and I basically think in getting into fall and winter, it's getting more difficult. So I try to just keep it simple from the beginning, and then um, build it up on the frequency, how often I go to work out per week.
Yeah.
That's just current goal. Yeah.
Yeah, it would. We are confident that we are going to achieve your goal quite soon and you're going to go beyond that. Thank you for joining us on season 1 of Analytics Heroes. For more information, visit moderndata101.com or you can also find us Analytics Heroes on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. Click subscribe so you don't miss any future episode. And on behalf of the team here at Modern, thanks for listening.